All righty, we are ready to get started. Thank you, everybody. My name is Linda Bowden. I am the AARP Vermont Volunteer State President, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today and for enduring the hurdles we had. As you know, AARP is dedicated to enhancing the quality of life for all of us as we age, and one of the ways we do that is through events like this. So be sure to check out our website at aarp.org/VT, and I will put that into the chat for all of our upcoming events and initiatives. And of course, a huge thank you to Local Motion, who is partnering with us on this wonderful event today. And as you know, there are monthly events that we will be having, and hopefully we'll get the kinks out so that it'll work perfectly. We love all of the activities that folks are participating in, and you can find out more by visiting that website on things like how to declutter your home or other kinds of events. So please join us with that. And at this point, I'd like to introduce, I'm rushing here, Bevan Barber Campbell, who is the certified cycling instructor with the League of American Bicyclists. And she is working with us at Local Motion to put on our event today, Get Back on Your Bike and Biking Basics. So take it away, Bevan.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. Hello. I'm very excited to be here with you. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to start with my story. And that is when I first met my great-grandfather, he was 95 and still riding a two-wheeled bicycle, something he was very proud of. And my grandfather, his son, followed in his footsteps, was very agile and active into his life.
Need anything? No,
and
I was hoping you want to hear it too.
Someone might need
You're
to
okay.
mute. And my father was still racing bicycles in his 70s. So the bar has been set very high for me, and I certainly look forward to aging gracefully on a bicycle and hoping you all have that aspiration as well. So I'm excited to hear what your story is going to be. The 5th session of our series is the chance for you to share your story of how bicycling has made your life better. So I'm really looking forward to that last session. All right. Our agenda for today, whoops, I can't advance. Yeah, for me. Real quickly, just as I had the review of the 5-part series up there. So we don't have to get to everything today. We did thoroughly read your survey results. Thank you so much for filling that out. So we know what your questions are. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can today. If we don't, we're hoping you come for the next sessions. And what else? Yeah, so today we're just going to really kind of try to hit some basics about the health advantages, how to do some goal setting, what's the basic gear, basic maintenance, some really great skills for getting back on the bike, and then talk about some upcoming events. All right, housekeeping. So if you're new to Zoom or unfamiliar with Zoom, here's a quick tutorial. The first button that's highlighted in blue is your mute. We're hoping you all stay mute unless called upon. The button next to it is the video. If you would like me to see a picture of you, I would enjoy that. So you can have yourself videoed. The next box with the dots, with the yellow dots is, what does that turn on again? That's on that turns on, you can display and see it differently. And then at the top, the green box, if you click on that, that's how you enter your questions. So please enter your questions as they come to you so you don't forget them. You go down to this line here, it says enter your text, and then click the arrow to enter it. And Linda will be monitoring all those questions for us. So we'll do our best to get to all your questions. Why ride a bicycle? I'm a firm believer that bicycling is a great way to improve our health. There are many studies out there and lots of very compelling data now on the benefits. One of the latest studies out of Denmark, where it's pretty customary to use a bicycle for transportation. They concluded after a 10-year study that even people that rode the tiniest amounts were outliving their peers that didn't ride bicycles at all. Other really compelling data, is just riding 20 miles a week can increase your risk of getting heart disease by 50%. Just biking or walking 30 minutes a day can lower your rate for getting most of the major diseases, cancer, heart disease again, diabetes. So there's just so many benefits to it. It's such a great way to just get that exercise requirement. Other benefits. So we all starting to worry about our balance. The repetitive motion of pedaling actually stimulates the part of your ear that affects your proprioception, and that's what affects your balance. So just the act of bicycling is actually really good for strengthening your balance. It also, the repetitive motion is also good for mental health. It actually helps increase serotonin in your brain. Exercise, we know, is for your immunity. It helps, increase T cells in your body. It's good for your gray matter in your brain. Exercise does stimulate your brain. And so as we slowly, our brains do shrink a little bit and we lose gray matter as we age, that exercise will help be stimulating to that. You can lose weight. The average adult loses 13 years in their first year of commuting by bicycle. So that would apply to any just moderate bicycling. I always like to say my friend lost 20 really without trying. She was just trying to use her bicycle every day. It's a great way to strengthen your relationships with your friends or partners to get that socialization. It's a great low impact sport. That's one of the things I like about it so much. I find it very accessible and challenging to all fitness levels, all shapes and sizes. You don't have to be thin to ride a bicycle, and I think that's great. It's very low impact, easier on the knees. So even short distances are exercise, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, how that exercise can add up. And finally, I always like to say, this is a data that came from Trek, that the health benefits outweigh the risks 20-1. So if you're afraid of the opportunity of getting hurt on your bicycle, if you can remind yourself that the benefits of doing it far outweigh the chance of getting injured. And life is full of risk. If you're going to avoid everything, what do they say? You might as well stay home and knit. And we don't want to do that. We want to ride our bikes. All right, my favorite thing is the whole idea that exercise in small increments adds up. The latest rec from the American Heart Association talked about that. I think there's been a false assumption for years that the only exercise that counts is exercise that's a half an hour or an hour, and it has to be this hard exercise. So really rethinking the concept of exercise, that exercise in small is, and they also changed that it can be as small of increments as 5 minutes, that you can add those up. So I like to point that out. The other thing I like about these recommendations is it helps me break it down to show that moderate exercise is great exercise and has a huge impact on your life, right? Walking every day. So what does it ask? The requirements right now are moderate intensity. It breaks down to a minimum of 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Vigorous activity, 10 minutes, 7 days a week. So the moderate can be walking your dog at a brisk pace. It can be riding your bicycle to the post office. And the 10 minutes of vigorous intensity, it's, the more complicated things like HIIT workouts. I always think, well, what if I just run up and down my stairs for 10 minutes? So my whole goal is to point out how accessible just fitting exercise into your life. It doesn't require going to a gym. It doesn't require special sports or special workouts. And the bicycle is a great way to integrate that into your life. Awesome. Now we have a fun video to play that shows about how bicycling can really make you happy. And we will go ahead and roll that for you.
The video isn't really playing for me anyway.
Awesome. I love that. It's definitely how I feel. That little bit of exercise I get from being on the bike can just totally make or break it for me for dealing with the stresses of life for sure. So, all right. So we also wanted to talk a little bit about goal setting as a way for overcoming the obstacles and getting yourself back on the bike, maybe by doing some goal setting. The first thing I always like to talk about is just keeping it really simple. You know, that will prevent you from getting overwhelmed. Keep it simple in terms of your objectives and your gear requirements. You don't have to ride 20 miles to make it meaningful, right? And that goes along with the whole idea of baby steps, right? Just making changes in our lives is to take it slow and set reasonable goals, okay? The whole book, the whole concept of the atomic habit from the book by the same name, he talks about that a lot, that it's these small incremental changes that aggregate that can make more marginal gains. Yeah, so the other thing I recommend is just writing down what are your barriers, and then next to that, what are your solutions? You know, and then break it down to tasks. Okay, I need to get a new helmet, and then give it a time commitment. This week, I'm going to order a new helmet. That's a great way to do it. A colleague of ours talks about just setting a goal and trying to do it 10 times. Just do it 10 times before you decide you don't like it or it's not working for you, and see how that works for you. Another way would be to take the habit loop, which is from the Atomic Habits book, and go through this diagram. So you start with your cue. So are you going to ride your bicycle if you don't see it and you can't find it? So your cue could be having your bicycle ready. What's the craving? You can have a plan. I'm going to go get ice cream, or I'm going to go visit a friend, right? And then your response, maybe it felt great and it was easier than you thought. That's what sets you up for the reward. And then the reward is what makes you want to jump back into that cycle again. So you could take the habit loop and actually fill it in with answering those questions. What could be your cue? What could be your craving? Great. And remember, once again, even short rides are exercise. A really great way to get yourself riding again is to combine it with other activities. And finally, we've got some tools to share. There's the National Bike Challenge, and there's apps that you can use for riding. So I really love the National Bike Challenge. It runs May 1st through the end of September. You can just Google a National Bike Challenge and it will take you to the Love to Ride website. And you can create an account, and you can see right now, I don't have any miles yet. I better get on it. It's a fun way to just give yourself a goal. So last summer, I think I set my goal at 800 and I only missed it by 80 miles. I was so sad. I was going to try to ride a century to get my last 80 miles. So that's a really fun, great, just a way to motivate yourself. And then there's apps that you can use on your phone, like Strava and Ride Spot or Map My Ride, where you just turn that on while you're riding. It records it for you. You get a fun map of your ride with the mileage and elevation and time. You can insert pictures of yourself. I like to use Strava because I have other friends on it, so I can get inspired by what my other friends are doing. And then after, it just automatically downloads your ride into the National Bike Challenge. All right, ready, set. How do we get ready? What gear do you really need? And I break it down to a bike and a helmet. The next thing I'd maybe put in the really need list is the saddles. And we're going to talk about saddle, because if you're not riding because your bum is miserable, then the saddle is going to become a pretty high priority. Next on that list of what you probably really want to have sooner than later would be a pump, some chain lube, a lock, lights, and then a kit for fixing your tires, like if you get a flat tire. All right, saddles. I believe you can find something comfy. There are many shops that will let you test saddles. Terry Bicycles, through their mail order, they do have a love it or return it guarantee. And they're right here in Vermont company. So how do you get a saddle that fits right? So when we don't ride a lot and then we ride and our bum gets sore, we think, oh, I just want to get a super wide, super mushy saddle with lots of gel. That might not necessarily be the most comfortable. So you want to look for features and the geometry in the saddle. So for women, our sit bones tend to be a little bit further apart. So a Terry saddle that's wider in the back where you know it's going to support your sit bones. For me, I can really feel it when my sit bones are going over the edge. I also really like the cutaway, which is this hole. And Terry actually originally developed that for men for numbness, but then they found it worked really well for women as well. So I'm a big fan of those saddles, and lots of people make them. So again, you want to have a saddle that's supportive, but not too mushy. All that gel can actually make you get sore. And finally, the width of your sit bones isn't necessarily determined by the size of your body. So don't assume that you think you need a super wide saddle just based on your size. Helmets. I would recommend that you always wear a helmet. I do. I feel naked without one. And I've actually only crashed once in my life where I hit my head. And I tell you, the sound of my helmet smacking the ground was so beautiful to me because it was my helmet and not my head. I tell people it's like a seatbelt or smoke detector. At the end of your life, if you never need it either, are you going to say, oh, why did I bother to have those things? No, you're going to be glad you wore your seatbelt, right? And there is data that shows that head injury can lead to dementia. So we really want to be protecting our brains as we age, of course, right? So we do like to make sure people know how to wear a properly fitted helmet. And we use this whole 2-finger rule. So you really want to make sure your helmet is down on your forehead. You want to make a nice V with the straps, which are usually adjustable, and have just a little slack under your chin. You don't need to be being choked, right? Finally, I always like to say I like to wear a helmet as modeling to children. So, you know, bicycle crashes are the #1 cause of head injury in children. So we especially want them protecting their brains. All right, bike selection. First of all, the best bike might be the one you already have, right? If you got a bike, get on it. Unless it's completely in a state of disrepair, then it might be dangerous. But any bike that you can hop on and just get riding the smallest amounts we would recommend. So there are a lot of different kind of bikes out there. It can get very overwhelming. We will definitely continue to talk about this in upcoming series as well. What do I use here in Vermont? I have a mountain bike that I use for commuting on my class 4 road between Cabot and Hardwick. Today, I'm actually picking up my first e-bike, and it's going to be a cargo bike that I'll probably use for commuting as well. I would like to have a nice gravel bike. I think if you want to do road riding and touring around Vermont, a gravel bike is probably your best bet since you are going to be on dirt roads. It's highly likely you'll be on dirt roads. What else? So some people really like recumbents, and tricycles are great if you're really worried about your balance. There are women-specific bikes, and that came about because women tend to have shorter torsos than men. So you may be a candidate for a women-specific bike for full comfort. So you just need to ask yourself, how am I going to use this bike? If you think you're only going to bike really short distances to the coffee shop or the post office, maybe you get a cruiser bike. But those cruiser bikes can be kind of heavy. So then all of a sudden you're wanting to ride 20 miles and you have this sort of heavy cruiser bike and it's not really working for you. So you guys ask yourself a question, how far are you going to want to go? What the future might hold? And definitely, work with a bike shop. They can really help you select something. And also really important is, what riding position do you want to be in? So if you look at this next slide, see how upright those ladies are. One of the theories about being more upright is it gives you better visibility. You're able to turn and look around and have a better situational awareness when you're more upright. I definitely prefer being more upright the older I've gotten. The picture on the right, I put that on there because that's a young mom, and she told me when she finally got this bike, which is like a really cute town bike for her to ride around her town. It had her basket, and that really was the deal breaker, which finally got her riding her bike for transportation and riding more often. So that part of bike selection can really help inspire you for sure. And now we're going to talk about e-bikes. I'm going to hand it over to our colleague, Mary Catherine. And because she is more of an expert on this than I am.
Hello, everybody. I have an e-bike. I have a disability, a hearing impairment that affects my balance actually. So my e-bike is a trike with the 2 wheels in the front, and it is so stable and so sturdy. It has actually changed my life in terms of biking. And it's a little heavy. It's a cargo bike. I actually put my daughter in the front, and it's just great. I don't have to worry about falling over with her in it. And it's an e-bike because that bike is kind of heavy. So it helps me not groan when I see a hill. The nice thing about e-bikes is that they provide a level of accessibility to folks who may not be able to use a standard bike for whatever reason. And for me, it's my balance and honestly, my stamina. So Locomotion has a lending library of bikes. So we have cargo bikes. We actually have a bike just like mine, which is the trike. It's called a tadpole trike because it looks like a tadpole. And we have just plain old standard bikes as e-bikes. So our lending library is free. You can borrow bikes from us. Just go to our website, locomotion.org/e-bikes, and you can learn more about our lending library there. There's also a lot of promotions going on right now with electric companies where you will get a rebate on an e-bike if you purchase one. Bonus, we also have V-Bike in Brattleboro, but Dave Cohen, who actually helped me with my bike, I put on an aftermarket e-bike motor. He helped me figure out what I needed. He was really knowledgeable and gave me a lot of resources and a lot of support and checked in. That's also free and well supported. If you get an e-bike, your best bet is to test it out in a quiet road or empty parking lot and get a hang of how it accelerates. Always start on the lowest gear. I know that if I start on even level 3 for me, I kind of go like this, which is, fine for me because my bike is a trike and I don't lose my balance, but it can be a little disconcerting when you start on a low speed. You're going to have a much easier transition into going forward. Mine's a pedal assist. So what happens is I start pedaling and then the sensor notices that I'm pedaling and then it gives me a little extra when it gets into that rotation. Some bikes have a throttle, which is basically just like a motor and you don't have to pedal at all and it just goes. Those can be a little more surprising when you use them. So as I said, test your bike out somewhere safe and quiet and, steer it around, throttle it, use the different power levels, give it a shot. I have to say, checking out an e-bike and trying one and seeing if it works for you is something I recommend for everybody, because what it does is it expands your range, gives you more freedom, lets you explore new places. My bike goes about 60 miles before I need a recharge, even though it's super heavy. Like with my daughter and the bike, it's over 100 pounds, and that's not even counting me. So the bike is moving a lot, and I still can get a really good range out of it, even when I have my running lights on. So I know some people were curious about e-bikes. If you want to learn more or try one out, again, a plug for our e-bike lending library, which is free.
Awesome. And a reminder again, if there's any slide that we went too quickly through, just pop that into the chat and we can make sure we can go back to it or further go into that subject either today or at the next session. So great, e-bikes, yes, very exciting. I'm so excited to get mine. That was something I realized moving back to Vermont very quickly, is that it is very helpful. The hills here are very steep, and so don't feel at all like you're not strong if you need one, because I determined pretty quickly that I wanted one. Okay, so bike fit. Yes, bike fit is really important. Again, ride the bike that you have and start paying attention to what doesn't feel good. So in particular for women, bikes can be too long. So signs of poor fit is that tight neck, tight shoulders. I definitely get that now that I think my torso is shrinking, unfortunately. So my old bikes are getting a little long for me. So it is really important. You can make adjustments to the bike you have. So one thing women can do to make a bike not so long is to put on a shorter stem. Can you point to the stem on there? That's the part that attaches from the top to, I'm sorry, from the headset attaches to the handlebars. So you can put a more upright stem. You can change the handlebars. For women that have really tiny hands, they actually have brake levers, the actual lever for smaller hands. You can change the length of the crank, which is that arm that attaches to the pedal. And very importantly, you can change the saddle and your seat height. So one great thing to do, especially if you're going to buy a new bike, is to get a professional fitting. A lot of shops offer that service. And then, you know, again, asking yourself a question if you do need a woman specific geometry. Oh yes, and one last thing about, so I think if you're feeling uncertain about riding, you might want to lower your seat for a while so you can quickly get your feet on the ground. If you can stand on your bike with your bum on your seat and also have your feet on your ground, that means your seat's probably too low, but go ahead and do that until you're feeling more confident. As you get more confident, I want you to slowly raise your seat up until you start to have more of this angle you see in the photo where it's just a slight bend in the knee. That's actually ideal for your knee health, right? It's actually kind of hard on your knees if your seat is too low. So work towards having your seat at the proper height. All right, team, next. Bike maintenance. So real quickly, we are going to talk about bike maintenance at upcoming sessions as well, but just want to go over some basics here. First of all, a good daily check is the ABC Quick Check. And that's a quick way to check the air, the brakes, and the chain. And I have a little slide about that coming up. So we'll jump that for now. What do you want to do weekly or twice a month? Keep your chain well lubed, keep your bike clean. Lubing your chain is something even a kid can do. You just need to buy bike lube, or you can just use the WD-40 you have in your garage. And I keep around a collection of old t-shirts that I use. And we'll do a demonstration of that in an upcoming session. Yearly, it's great to have a little, you know, take it into the shop and have them do a nice cleaning, check all your cables, check your brake pads, check your wheels, make sure all your bolts are tight. So I personally like having a good mechanic. I do encourage people to learn as much as they can. It's great if you can learn the bike parts, because then when you go into the shop, you don't feel silly and you can at least talk to them about what you think is not working. Okay, fixing a flat. My favorite story about that is one of my good original biking buddies, hardcore daily bike commuter. Her joke was her tire fixing kit was a good novel and a quarter. And she would plop herself down on the curb and call her husband and wait for him to come fix her flat. And she actually even worked in a bike shop. So you can tell that was a few years ago because she had a quarter for the payphone, no cell phone. Anyway, so there are tools you can carry. You can learn how to do it. It's very empowering. There's great YouTube videos, and we'll probably watch one of those in the upcoming session. There are things you are going to want to carry, and we can demonstrate that. You need to have tire levers, a patch kit, a tube, a spare tube, and some type of air. There's cartridges, or you need to have a pump. Ideally, you want to prevent flats. So maintaining proper air pressure is key. If your air pressure is too low, you can get something called a pinch flat. So keep your tires well aired. What else? You can go tubeless, which just means it's more like a car. You have a tire that's sealed to the rim. So yes, and when you're out buying a tube, the one thing you do need to know is the size of your wheel. So old mountain bikes were 26-inch. Standard road bikes are 700C. It's a lot of language and information, but it is written on the side of your tire on your bike, and we'll show you a picture of that in a minute. So, and if you do feel like you ride where there's a lot of puncture objects like glass, you can buy tires that are reinforced that are considered puncture resistant. So, all right. So the ABC Quick Check, just really quick, it's a great habit to get into. The A stands for air. Again, having a pump, if you don't have a pump, you can go to a gas station, but having a pump at home, either a standing pump or a hand pump is great. The tire pressure range recommended for that type of wheel and tire is written on the side of the tire, and it should also tell you the size so you know what tube to buy. Brakes, you want to check. You don't want to ride a bike where you forgot to attach the brake. Maybe you had loaded it in your car, so you don't always squeeze your levers. Make sure you forget everything's working. You don't want to ride a bike, the brakes aren't working well. You shouldn't be able to press the levers all the way to the grip. See how there's a little space in that photo between the lever that he has with his pointer finger and the grip the rest of his hand is on. So B is for brakes. C is for chain. It's a great idea to take good care of your chain. Again, having some lube around, especially when it's really wet around here. You want to keep it well oiled and clean. And then finally, quick releases. That's again something you might release that to put your bike in your car. Always make sure your quick releases are properly closed, and someone at a bike shop can teach you about that. You do want the quick release handle facing backwards so that if you bike toward a stick, the stick doesn't grab that lever and release it. So that's the ABC Quick Check, just a great habit to get into. All right, so we are going to talk about some skills really quick. We're going to watch a video, and then I'm going to also demonstrate a couple things. So we're going to talk about tricks for getting on and off your bicycle if your flexibility and balance is not as great. We're going to talk about the Power Start, which is a really stable way to start, how to do smooth stopping, braking. Talk about that a little bit real quick right here. So the thing you can say in your head is the right brake is for the rear. So right is rear, I say to myself. My left hand is my front brake. You do actually get most of your braking power from your front brake, but we all know, because we probably did it when we were a kid, if you only use your front brake, you can fly over the front of your bike. And general rule of thumb is you want to apply both levers together gradually, right? That's good braking. If you are struggling with balance and really getting nervous about getting back on the bike, a great thing you can do is practice striding. So that's what the little kids do on those bikes with no pedals. You can do striding on your own bike. You don't even have to take the pedals off, but you can if you want. Turn your bike into a strider and just practice running and walking and lifting your feet and getting your sense about your balance again. So lower your seat for that and practice some striding around your driveway or on a surface with no cars. So smooth shifting is a little tricky thing to do this way. We'll talk about it a little bit. In general, your front hand is your big changes and your left hand is your big changes. So that's the front chain rings, and your right hand is what I call for small changes. So little changes in hills and whatnot. In general, you want to start, if you have 3 chain rings up front, you want to be on that middle one and then make the small changes with your right hand. Sorry, I'm forgetting for a second. And we'll also demonstrate some little tricks for scanning, which is what the woman in the photograph is doing, the ability to look behind yourself to see if a car is approaching or if you can merge to take a left-hand turn. And then signaling. Real quick, signaling. You guys probably all know this. It is true and legal. There are 2 ways to do your right turn signal. I do not use the bent arm one because I worry that people think I'm waving to them. I prefer extending my right arm. And I also recommend, and I will show this when we do a demo on how I like to do my right hand turn. It is great to signal stopping. I tell people, I think it's best to just call it out. Just say stopping whenever you're preparing to stop. That way, if you're biking with anyone, they're not going to run into you. And then there's also a hand signal for slowing down. And I have one other hand signal I'm going to show you when I do my demonstration. So next we are going to watch a great video of Sandy, who worked for Locomotion, showing us the power start and stopping.
Hi everyone, Sandy here from Locomotion. Today we'll be reviewing getting on your bike, starting to pedal, and safely stopping. My video partner and avid biker Skylar is here with me to help demonstrate some techniques that will make starting and stopping a breeze. While getting on your bike might seem straightforward, it can be difficult if you have limited mobility or are uncomfortable lifting your leg over the top tube. But if you are uncomfortable getting on your bike, don't give up yet. There are some strategies you can use. You can leave your bike pretty far down to give yourself some clearance to step over. Once your leg is over, just lift your bike back up and you're on, ready to ride. Once you're on your bike, if you can't stand over the top tube with both feet flat on the ground, it's a sure sign that your bike is too big for you. While it doesn't need to be a perfect fit, you do need to be comfortable on the bike. All right, now that you're on, let's get moving. When starting to ride and get your balance on the bike, momentum is your best friend. And the best way to start with momentum is a move called the power start. Here's how the power start works. From standing, position your pedal so that it's at an angle raised above the ground. When you're ready to get moving, place your foot onto the pedal and shift your weight forward to create some momentum. From there, you can find your seat and bring your other foot to the pedal as well. Now you've got some momentum to help keep you balanced as you start to pedal. Now, let's talk about safely stopping. To stop, you'll squeeze both brakes evenly and at the same time. Squeezing only the rear brake will slow you down, but might not be enough to stop you all the way. Squeezing only the front brake might cause you to stop abruptly and pitch forward over the handlebars. As you start to slow down, make sure one pedal is at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Put your weight onto that pedal and use your other foot to step forward onto the ground. You'll end up standing over the top tube, just like when you started. Make sure you are using the brakes to stop your bike rather than dragging your feet. You want to be at an almost complete stop before you put your feet down. It's good practice to move your pedal into the power start position as soon as you come to a stop. This way, you'll be ready to get moving again as soon as you need to. This is especially helpful while biking with other bikes or while biking in traffic. You'll be ready to go whenever you need to get moving. In the next video, we'll be talking about best biking practices, hand signaling, and staying safe on the road. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you have any questions about bikes or biking, let us know. You can find Local Motion on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or send us an email at info@localmotion.org. See you next time.
Can everyone see us?
Awesome. Everybody, here with the bike. Here is my trick for getting on the bike. So, those of us that can still do this, we can keep practicing to make sure, right? We like to down like that, right? And then our option is this. Both those things are getting hard. So, what we recommend, which I think we demonstrated in the video, you just lower down a little bit and stop moving. If even that feels tricky, your option is just put it all the way down on the floor and step over and lift your weight. All right. Now, I came up with a new idea. Let's say I was doing this with my 8-year-old mother recently, and I was worried she was going to trip. So I thought if you had a bar or a chair or a tree, anything that's outside, you can give yourself some extra stability by using that to make sure you don't trip. Then you get rid of your object. Voila. On the way. All right. Power start, I think, got a great example of that. So if you're not kind of at 2 o'clock, what that does is gives you a great push forward. And you start with your butt off the seat. That's a thing kids love to do is, oh, I want to have their butt on their seat. Next, you want to start with your butt off and do that power start. Signaling, I want to show you my little trick for signaling. So I do like to do right hand because I feel like I'm pointing. And I like to put a little flip with my wrist because I feel like car seat movement. So that's the other reason why I prefer this for my right hand turn. Another great signal that I like to use is in intersections. When I'm slowly approaching an intersection, we're going to talk about lane position more in another session. I like to do this. Again, I've got movement. I'm telling them I'm going straight. It's not about just connecting my wrist on the other intersection. And then finally standing. So when you're on the bike, let's say you want to merge out into the lane to take a left-hand turn. You probably want to look behind you, or you can use a mirror. So this is another flexibility issue. It starts to get a little bit harder to change, and you're not doing so well looking behind you. One trick you can practice to comfortable riding one-handed is if you drop this hand on your thigh while you're pedaling, it makes it easier to rotate and look behind you. Flexibility trick. And finally, there was one last thing about signaling that I wanted to remember.
The braking and when you're moving.
Oh, well, signaling. First of all, so the law states that we're required to use hand signals, but I feel safety is the most important. So if you're not comfortable signaling, but taking your hand up, just stop. And then you can review your signal, right? You don't need to do that, right? It's a requirement, nothing you do to make yourself feel unsafe. So, that's it for example.
Any questions, just type those into the chat. I'm hoping it's okay if we go 10 minutes over if possible, but we'll see if we can, what we can wrap up here and going forward. All right. So the safe cycling mindset and behaviors. Could you help me advance there? That's my cute mom at 79. Getting her back on the bike. And then I did get to ride with her when she was 80 as well. So the foundation of the teaching I had as a safe cycling instructor is something called vehicular cycling. And it's just based on the notion that a bicycle is a vehicle and that when you're on a bicycle, you are a driver of a vehicle. So basic idea behind that is you're obeying the same rules of the road. Why is that helpful? Well, it helps you be predictable. If you're driving your bike the way you drive a car, you're signaling, you're following the rules of the road. The people driving cars will have a better sense of understanding what you're going to do. You're riding on the right side of the road, etc. Another really important thing that really does improve your safety is being visible. So wear as bright a clothing as possible. Use light. I am seeing a lot of tourists now using day running lights. So they have a red blinking rear light and a front light system, and they're using those all day long. And I think that's a great idea on our rural routes and highways here in Vermont. Finally, your lane positioning. So if you are in town, a lot of us want to hug the curb and try to be out of the way of the cars, but actually that type of lane positioning actually makes you less safe because you're a lot less visible. So you want to think about your lane positioning, like when you're entering an intersection, you don't want your visibility by cars blocked by another car. So if you're side by side with a car, people might not see you. And we're going to talk about that more in upcoming sessions as well, how to do good lane positioning. Any smart driver knows it's good to be defensive, right? we don't pretend that, people don't see us. We have to always be mindful that maybe the car doesn't see me. So you're always being cautious, being very alert. Have good situational awareness so you know what's around you when you're riding in traffic. And communicate as much as possible. Try to get eye contact with drivers. Use your hand signals when you can. Try to get nod. Any way you can communicate. I try to nod to bicyclists as a driver because I think that's really helpful. Be confident. Even if you're feeling fearful, if you can have the confidence that you belong on the road, that might help you drive your bike in a way that's actually safer. Be courteous to cars. We're all diplomats here for riding. And the last thing I always like to say is your safety comes first. So I think of it as 3 tiers. First is your safety. Second is obeying the law. Third is being courteous to motorists. All right, we made it. We did it. Upcoming events. We've got some great events that can help you set goals and be excited. There is the Vermont's Way to Go Spring Challenge. You have 3 more days where you can get in the 2 rides that enter you into a lottery for prizes. If you just Google Way to Go Spring Challenge, you should be able to find it and you can sign up. And you can also, there is a Way to Go app you can have on your phone. Bike to Work Week is May 17th through the 21st, and Bike to Work Day is May 21st. If you want to try biking to work or biking anywhere, Bike Anywhere Day could be. The bike ferry that Locomotion runs is opening on May 28th. And again, we talked about the National Bike Challenge. They have Bike Month in May, but again, the full challenge runs May 1st through September 30th. And there's the Tour de Farms Bike Tour, which I believe Linda can talk about, is being run. It's an event for AARP, and there's some information there on that. Here's a little bit about the Way to Go Spring Challenge. So I've got some pictures of the app and the challenge. I've got the website there. And do put in the chat if there's any slides you need us to return to. Great. So upcoming workshops. I think I mentioned a lot of these things. We will go into more information about gear and lane positioning, what kind of kit and clothing. how to take care of your bike, etc. So we've got those listed there. And keep working on our goals and habits. We did want to encourage you all to set a goal for the summer that we can discuss as we go along. And finally, just a little plug for Local Motion. We are the state advocacy and resource for Vermont. There's the bike ferry, which is super neat. We've got the bike rentals and the e-bike lending library. Lots of good education like what we're doing today. So now I will let Linda decide how much time we're going to spend on questions. Thanks so much.
Well, I think we're going to take just a couple questions. We do have a couple comments. One was around electric bikes, and to remind folks that with
Are you
e-bikes,
there, Linda?
can you hear me?
Ah, I can now. Sorry, I had my audio off or something. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here.
So with e-bikes, make sure that when you come to a stop to have it on the lowest setting, because your bike that e-bikes are heavier than normal bikes. And this particular Louise said that she fell the first time she pulled into her driveway because she was going too fast. So take note of that sort of thing. And then Tree mentioned, please, when you pass walkers, and this is particularly important on the bike path, to let people know that you're passing on their left, so that they're not going to pull out into you or run in front of you. So always be courteous that way and let folks know that you're there. The other thing you can do is ring a bell, and I would love to see more people ringing their bells, which gives everybody that signal that there's a bike coming behind them. So either one of those is a really good tip. So that's about it. Adding to the if you could go back to this slide that shows the upcoming events, that one back, those are important to know. But the other one was the farm one. And the only thing I wanted to mention about that, if you could go back to that, is that there is a 5% discount if you sign up. The code is AARP. So if you sign up by 9/16, you will get a 5% discount being an AARP member. So just wanted to mention that as an addition to it. So it's a lot of fun going this year. It goes down through Virgins, so it should be fun going down in that area. But other than that, we look forward to seeing everybody next month. It's the second Thursday of the month that we have these wonderful workshops, and again, partnering with Local Motion. So it was excellent today, Bevan. Thank you. And we hope everybody just gets out on their bike. And don't forget, keep a record for yourself of where you're biking, what your challenges are, what's a great ride that you've really enjoyed, so that you could share it with others, because we're hoping that with our September session that we'll be able to share some of that with others, because we really are a community no matter where we are in the States. So please keep record of that and share with us that kind of information. So we've got one other question that's just come through, Bevan, that said, if a bike has been in the barn for a long time, should I get new tires?
The inner tube probably rotted.
Yeah, they might need to be looked at by a mechanic to determine if the tires, because they will crack and degrade over time. So that's a bike I would definitely recommend getting into a bike shop if you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can just, inflate the tires and, see if they keep the inflation and lube it. And I mean, give it a ride somewhere safe. test those brakes, test the chain. It might work. I mean, I've kept bikes in my garage for a while and hopped on them. And I mean, I had a bike that I got when I was 15 and I was still riding it when I was 30 and I never changed it to once. So,
Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't know, you get lucky.
Yeah.
I think you were lucky with that one. So yeah, the cracking of the tires is a good point. Okay. I don't see any other questions there, Bevan. So
Okay.
thank you folks so much. We will be posting this on the AARP YouTube channel. And thank you again for joining us today.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, everybody. It was great. It was really fun. Oh, yeah, she's good.